10 days ago, I got a phone call from Michael Suter. We've been talking on and off about trying to get Giorgio Moroder to IMS, and I kind of gave up on it for this year, and Niall was coming, so we were kind of quite happy. And then you get a call saying he's going to be in Ibiza. He'd love to come and talk with you guys and talk about where his head's at for the future and talk about his history. And it was just too much to say no to. So I'm sorry everything's so crammed in, but it's impossible to say no when a legend like Giorgio Moroder gives you the opportunity to come to IMS and tell us his story. So to the stage, Josh Glazer and Giorgio Moroder.
Check, check.
Here we are.
Here we are. How far did you travel to get here, Giorgio? I think. How far did you travel to get here? I think you had quite a busy week.
We left on Tuesday. We went to Nashville to the funeral of Donna Summer, and everything went wrong. The flight was late. The luggage is late. Actually, we don't have it yet. So it's like we went to Nashville. We came back yesterday to Cannes. I did a little DJing at the Anfar for the AIDS benefit evening, and now I'm happy to be here.
Well, we are very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
One thing when this was first announced about a week ago that you were going to be here, and I was fortunate enough to just have my name tiny next to yours. People kept hitting me up like crazy and saying like, Moroder, where's that guy been? What's he doing now? What brought you here to Ibiza this year?
Well, the funny thing is, a friend of ours works for Louis Vuitton, and he asked me to do something like 12 minutes of not really DJing, but prepare some songs. So I did a little remix of one of my songs, From Here to Eternity, then from The Chase from Midnight Express, and I Feel Love. And it went so well, and I was kind of very much happy and interested. I thought maybe I should try to do a little bit of a DJing. And so a friend of mine introduced me to the guys in Cannes, to Anfar, and that's how I did my job there.
Okay, and this was your first time DJing or first time performing in how long?
Absolutely first time. And then since Ibiza is the capital of disco, of dance and DJing, I thought to myself, we have to come back here. And our good friend Lenny Ibiza helped me a lot with the tracks and remixed some of the stuff, and so now I'm here and I love to be here with you.
Great. Now, I heard something just earlier this afternoon. Obviously, you saw Nile Rodgers' energetic presentation, as we'll call it, and he talked about some certain Frenchmen that he's not supposed to talk about, that he's been working with.
I think, can I tell?
I think you should tell.
Okay. I think he worked for about 3 songs with Daft Punk.
And I heard maybe it wasn't just him involved.
No, I did some work with them too. Can I tell you a funny story?
Please.
So Thomas, who is the guy, wanted me to talk about my life. And I said, so what are you going to do with that? Oh, he said, you just talk and we're going to snip in the stuff. And so I came in Paris in the studio, and he had 3 microphones to record me. 3 different microphones. I said, why do you have 3? Isn't one enough? No, he said, this microphone here is a very old microphone of the 60s, because if you talk about your life in the 60s, that's how the microphone is going to sound. Then if you talk about the 70s, you have the second microphone. And if you talk about the future, we have whatever. So, but I asked the engineer, is anybody ever being able to distinguish the different sounds? And he said, no. So I said, so why is he doing it? He said, well, he knows the difference.
He'll know. Should we give everyone a moment to tweet that, everybody? All right, so that's it. We can go home. We just had that news. Now, so obviously, you already mentioned, and everyone here was deeply saddened by the passing of Donna Summer. And as we were coming to this day, I was thinking, what could I ask? What could we talk about? Because obviously, "Love to Love You, Baby," so such a globally massive song, and I feel love, even probably for this particular community, maybe even more influential and seminal. And of course, you've spoken a million times about what led to the songs, how they were recorded, the process. But one thing I was thinking about, and something that I think would resonate with a lot of the DJs here and producers here, do you have a memory of, for either of those songs or any of your songs, the first time you experienced the songs in a club, the first time you actually saw people dancing and celebrating and smiling to your music outside of the inner circle?
Yeah, sometime I would do some demos, and to kind of get the feel how it works. I would go into a discotheque. I had a friend of mine in Munich. I gave him the tapes, and he said, okay, I'm playing, and then I tell you how it is. But the first time I really went into a discotheque and I heard the song, which was "Love to Love You, Baby," was at Studio 50. No, it was I Feel Love. It was a Studio 54, and it was incredible. Incredible. The big speakers and the moon, this Coke moon, and everybody dancing. That was my first real experience in hearing my song in a disco.
Okay. And do you still, obviously you just went back and said you did some remixes and played them recently. Do you still get that energy and excitement from hearing some of those older songs the way we all do?
Well, it's like I travel a lot, and not too long ago we were in China, and in the restaurant they were playing the song I did for the Olympics. They were playing Donna Summer, and so it's an incredible feel. If you're in Europe or in America, it's great too. But you go to China, or even we went to Tanzania, and we hear our song. What is this? So it's absolutely a great feel.
I can imagine. Now, looking back a little bit on the history leading up to "Love to Love You, Baby," and that being, it's kind of like so much the start of disco. I read a quote from a very old interview where you referred to, you started as the touring bassist, I believe, in a band, or?
Right, not the electric, but the big one.
Oh, okay. Well, this is probably even more interesting then. You described what you were playing as, you described it as more or less a dancing group. But what sort of dancing was it? What sort of music was that?
I would say it was pop of the days. We would play the Beatles song, some R&B song, but you like the groups who don't have their own song yet, they play all the hits of the day.
And then you went through a little bit in the late '60s where you started to have some success as a solo artist, and it seemed like you were still looking for your sound. Some of it was...
Yeah, I ended up by pure coincidence in Berlin, and I was quite lucky. I had my first hit after I think 4 or 5 months being a composer, and so I did probably 20, 30 songs with different, especially German acts. But it only started to get a little better when I moved to Munich. And that's when I met Donna Summer.
And that's something you don't hear very often, people leaving Berlin to go to Munich anymore.
Well, yeah, I know you like Berlin, and I love it too, but at the time when I was there, it was Berlin and East Berlin, so you could not leave. I didn't have a car, so I had to go by train to go back to Italy. So it was not that great.
So what was going on in Munich? What did you discover when you got there that maybe helped lead you to? I mean, besides obviously meeting Donna, to lead you to dance music and to disco, and how did you arrive up to that?
I used to do songs which were not disco with the great musicians, Keith Forsey on the drums, which then became a famous producer too, Harold Faltermeyer on keyboards, Dave King on bass, who played Love to Love You Baby. And so slowly we got a certain sound, but the sound which then made the whole thing, like, for example, the 4 on the floor, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the first time we used it with Donna. And so I had absolutely great musicians to work with me.
Right, and I read an interesting, I'll stop saying I read stuff because obviously this is how I found out about all of this. But you said that when you were working with musicians, you were able to, you just kind of tell the musicians what to play. They could play it and you could actually work rather quickly. While later, when, you know, into the 80s and 90s, as technology became more of a thing, it actually slowed your process a little.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is this, if you record live a drum, you have a certain sound. The same engineer comes in, the same microphones, you know what the sound is. The bass, there's not too much to change. The guitar, you can have a lot of things. So basically, when we did a recording, first the musician came in and the engineer got the sounds, and then it took about an hour and a half per track. So we would do about 3 tracks a day. And it was very simple because we had the sounds. I always had some demos. I just wrote down the chords. So it was much, much easier than now. Now the problem is the amount of sounds you have is so big that you start thinking, okay, what bass drum? Oh, okay, so you spend an hour just looking through the bass drums, and then the violins, and then the sounds. So we didn't have that thing. So we would do 1 track, let's say 3 tracks a day. Then the violins came in, they did 3 or 4 a day. The background, Donna would sing it basically 2 takes, 3 takes. There was no auto-tune, so whenever we thought we had the right feel, that was it. And Donna would say, okay, thank you, see you tomorrow, and she left. So it was very easy and very fast, actually. We were able to do the extension of Love to Love You from the 3 minutes to 17 minutes. I think took us about 2 days, 2-3 days.
Right. It seemed to come up a lot. The kick drum in particular was the one thing you couldn't do electronically when you did I Feel Love.
I Feel Love was done, the whole thing, just with the Moog, the hi-hat, all the effects, all the drums, except we could not find the right sound from the Moog for the kick. So we had Keith Forsey, I tell you, it was not easy because all he had to do is this. If you cannot work with your hand and with your whole body, it's really difficult. So he was working like 6-7 minutes without stop, just kicking.
Right. And is he I assume he was the drummer who, you also used to have tapes with just drum loops that you had recorded.
Yeah, at one point, I thought, how could I have Keith in the studio without having him? So I recorded a track with a click. I think at that time it was a metronome, and Keith Forsey came in and did just a bass drum, and then just a hi-hat, and then a snare. So so I had about 20 minutes a loop, and so I was able to compose. Unfortunately, on about 2 or 3 tempos, different tempos, and it was great because I had the drummer, and the drums, I think, to compose with the synthesizer or the piano are the most important helps.
Now that's interesting. I find one thing I haven't ever really been able to discern about your career looking over it. I mean, obviously, you were part of such technological breakthroughs, and so much happened during the major part of your career. But at the same time, you were also involved so much in hit making, and I'm not sure, is Moroder a tech guy first, or is he a song guy first?
Well, first, I'm a song guy. Technically, I'm a disaster. I barely know how to switch the computer on. I had always great guys. Harold Faltermeyer is a great keyboard player. I would just tell them, give me this sound, and he would come back after 10 minutes. Yeah, this is it. So technically, I'm not good at all. But composing-wise, I think I'm okay.
And that actually brings me to a quote I read. You were speaking about craft work. You said, "Great sounds, not fully finished as songwriters."
Well, at least the first 2-3 years of Kraftwerk, the songs were really easy, simple. If they sang, it was only "I'm a robot, I'm this." So it's, yeah, they were robots, right? Kind of. So musically speaking, it was great because it was so new, like Autobahn fahren, Autobahn. Strictly musically, it's great, but it's not extremely good.
Well, did you feel, because one thing Niles kept talking about, just speaking about, a sense of jealousy or sense of competition with you when he heard your record in the 16th notes, I got to do that, I got to do that. And then throughout history, Beatles versus Stones, Blur versus Oasis, like whatever. Did you feel that at all with Kraftwerk? Were you paying attention to kind of what they were doing? Like, oh, I need to get some of that because they did that right. And...
No, I liked the first album, the Autobahn. I liked some of the songs, but I hate to say that, but it was becoming a little repetitive. And sound-wise, it was not something I said, wow, what a great sound. The snare was always the same. By using the old computers, you're a little limited. The sound produced by a snare produced by the Moog was difficult to get different sounds. So I think it became a little, what's the word? Well, I couldn't really find anything where I say, okay, I have to do this.
Right, and you were busy, of course, not just doing...
Oh, and I was busy. I was
busy.
I was not even able to listen too much to records anyway.
So, but you were also working on a lot of music, even outside of electronics and synthesizers. And then you, even though you definitely became known for that, up to, your solo records. And where'd you get that shirt, by the way, on the cover of
well, that's
Equals MC Squared? That T-shirt is amazing.
Yeah, that was painted on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
One of a kind.
It was a graphic effect.
Oh, it was painted on afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
it's not hanging in your closet.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I wish I had it.
So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the cover of Giorgio's solo album. It's the coolest T-shirt. You'll want to make a copy.
Okay, good.
So, now I want to talk a little bit about, beyond dance music and pop music. You had incredible success with film music, which actually then became pop music and hit records. How did you first find yourself in that world, coming from this Munich?
Well, I should thank Donna and myself, of course, by doing I Feel Love. So the Alan Parker, the director, loved that song so much that he got me. I think originally he wanted Vangelis. Then he decided me, and he said, I saw the movie, and he said, there's a scene here where the guy escapes. I want something like...
Those 16th notes again.
Yeah, the same notes. And I said, that's great, but what else? Oh, he said, do whatever you want. Do it, just score it. And that, I think I did it in about 2 weeks, and he came to Munich. I did that one in Munich, and all his comments was, I think I would like a oboe playing on one of the sections. I said, okay, oboe. I said, Harold, give me an oboe. And he checked it out, and And that was all the thing. So the first movie was relatively easy. Alan was absolutely happy, and it was quite interesting because the movie industry, at least the music, until those days, were really close family. If you were not living in Los Angeles, having classical training, it was almost impossible to get in. But with Alan Parker, I got in, I got my Oscar, and I think it opened a lot to musicians who were not the typical musicians, Hollywood musicians.
Okay, and because obviously a lot of, and again, anyone in the dance music industry now can tell you, virtually every contemporary artist, like a big thing is always, I want to do film, I want to do film. It feels like a very natural progression for a lot of electronic artists. What would be maybe your advice for a young electronic musician who's been making his own records and doing his own thing, either creatively or business-wise? How does one handle themselves differently when going into film?
Well, first of all, I think it's relatively difficult. The big movies, the $100, $200 million movies, they just take the guys who are not only technically, not only composing wise, but they know classical music. So that's difficult. To do a movie, let's say, they call them the low budget movies of 30 million, that's much easier. For example, the movie with Social Network with Trent, for him it was a natural going in. He did that kind of music as an artist, so it was natural, and he got the chance. The director wanted him, and but right now it's there are so many things you can do: movies, you can do TV shows, you can do a lot of stuff. So as it is difficult to get in, but it's not impossible.
And then as far as creatively, what is the biggest difference or the biggest new thing to learn?
Well, in the movies you have to forget your kind of way to, you think, oh, this is a great song. First of all, it has to fit the movie. If the scene requires a certain sound or certain melody, you have to find it first. So that's the main thing. And then there's a problem now, which I was just talking to Hans Zimmer, which I'm going to do a movie probably next summer. The problem now is that while they shoot the movie, the editor, the music editor, put already music in, temp music they call it. So they take, let's say, a love scene, they take a beautiful love scene from another movie. So by the end, the musician comes in, the movie is already scored. But not only scored, but with the best songs and music they find. So this poor guy has to start again doing something which is different, but as good as the original, as the one they put in. So that's a big problem right now.
It's probably one of your records that they're using for the temp, and then...
Well, I think I Feel Love was in quite often.
Maybe Take My Breath Away for the love scenes.
Take My Breath Away, yeah, right.
So,
and Call Me for the...
Into the 80s, where you were doing things like Flashdance and things that were a little more pop, and you were living in LA by that point. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So what was it a difficult change for you to make? Was it a natural change? Was it something you went after?
Well, to be honest, it was not that much of a change. The music, the basic music, was still my kind of electronic music, but Jerry Bruckheimer, who co-produced it, wanted something moving, like he said, he's driving in with a car to doing his stuff, and he said, I want something driving, and I kind of thought maybe a triplet would be good, and so by that time I still played a little bit guitar, and I came up with a little riff, and I must say, Deborah Harry, she wrote the lyrics, and she did an incredible job. She changed one or two things, and it was a little bit a rock feel, because the movie at that point in the movie needed it.
Okay. And there's, I don't know why I thought of this, but there's I think of seeing, ever seen Deborah Harry on the Muppets doing "Call Me," with like the Muppet band behind her. And one thing I just discovered this morning, a double Muppet connection. You did a recording of Manamana.
Of what?
Manamana?
Manamana. Yeah, but, well, there's one thing. I'm not the composer of it.
Yes.
The composer is an Italian guy. Forgot the name, but that was fun because it was Manamana. It was really fun.
Right. So I'm curious. A lot that was happening after, like in the 80s when you were getting into doing that. Those who have studied, kind of the history of dance music, specifically what's led to today, it very much went from disco to electro, early house, early techno, Africa Bambaataa, working with Arthur Baker. Were you paying attention to that at the time? What was your feelings about that era?
Well, in terms of dance, I think I lost a little bit interest. Once disco was kind of gone, I said, okay, let's do some different things too. So I wasn't that much. I wasn't listening too much on dance music. Plus, I don't listen to music anyway, or not too much anyway.
No.
No. I don't have. We don't have a system in the house. I hear music in the car while I drive, but that's all.
Okay, so what has gotten you back into paying attention to dance music? Not like when we spoke last week, you said you've met some of the DJs and you're into some of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the dance music became really interesting again, especially what David Guetta did, by combining the music, the good quality of sounds and all, with good quality of voices. Like R&B voices now fit in so well, and it's great because now I think dance is pop. I listen. If I listen the radio, I hear in Los Angeles. I hear Kiss FM, and all they play, not all, but 70-80% is dance music, and that station only plays pop, meaning they only play what people want to hear. And so that's great. So dance is absolutely back.
Yeah, which is I think great for everyone in this room.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have just a few minutes left, and we were going to maybe take some audience questions. But before we do that, is Mark Jones around?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Mark, my understanding is has a question or two questions, not of his own.
Can I just say it's an honor and a pleasure to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
An inspiration. Shall I sit here? Or stand there? No, you sit down. Okay. What I did, I have a radio show on the BBC called Back to the Future, which joins the dots of electronic music from music of the past to now, because we have artists, and shall we say, pop stars now, who are the first generation of pop stars and artists to refer to say, no, it wasn't about the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. It was because of the Human League. And that's the reason they make music now. And this is the first wave of pop artists that have actually said that. I know within dance and electronic music, people have been saying it for quite a considerable time. What I did was I sent a little email and text and made a couple of calls to some pioneers like yourself. And if they could ask you one question, what would they ask you? So I have quite a few answers. I don't know how long we've got, but I'll try and get through them.
Okay.
Because I'm sure I'll get lots of grief if I don't get any answers. Okay, first up, too many DJs, Soulwax. How many mics did you use to record drums, and what was the signal path, for example, on E = MC squared?
Did I say I know everything about technology? Well,
Just make it up.
The drums, we had, let me see, one drum at the kick, one the hi-hat, one for the snare, one about 2 or 3 for the tom-toms, and a stereo above, and a bigger stereo higher.
Okay.
Basically 7, 8.
And what was,
And
what was
we
the
had-
signal path?
Okay, that was going through the preamplifier, which we had a Neumann. Then the microphone was the Telefunken B72. Ah, no, that's the plane. No.
Did you get that?
Actually, no. So we had about 7, 8 microphones.
Okay, that's a good start. Second question from Philip Oakey of the Human League.
Oh, Philip. Oh.
Yes. Which 3 tracks are you proudest to have written, and which 3 tracks are you proudest to have produced?
You're talking about his album?
No,
In
I
general?
don't know whether that's a reference.
Okay.
But just in general, I think.
Well, first I loved the one we did with Phil.
Of course.
That we love.
Which is what the most together in Electric Dreams.
Oh, together, yeah, right. Which, by the way, is in the charts now in England.
Yes, it is back in the charts.
It is in a commercial, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
To me, that track brings all of us together, and it still does to this day.
So, well, what I feel love because it was so much fun, and it became so big without. It was not programmed. We thought it's going to be okay, but not the way it became.
Okay. We'll cut it there because I know we're tight for time. Miss Ellie Jackson, LaRue. Do you know her? Okay.
No.
You would like her.
You'd like her, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. She would like to know how much of your music you made was in your head before recording, and how much of it was left up to improvisation and experimentation.
Usually I sit on the piano and I start to work on the composing. Sometimes I sit, for example, in a restaurant and something pops up. For example, I did the theme for the Olympics in Seoul, a song called Hand in Hand, which became a big hit. I know exactly the restaurant where I composed it. So I wrote the notes on a little piece of paper. And now I use my iPhone. If I have an idea, I record it.
Was that before your starter or your main course or your dessert?
Basically the dessert.
Dessert.
When I'm...
High five. Dessert all the way. That works.
And the rest, mostly of the songs were composed by playing the piano.
Okay. Mr. Gary Newman.
Okay, I know him.
Let's hear it. Okay. Gary says, I Feel Love was genuinely groundbreaking. He hadn't heard anything like it when it first came onto the radio. He started using synthesizers quite by accident when he was supposed to be making a punk rock album, and came across a mini Moog in a studio. How did you first discover synths?
Okay, if you want to know the very first, I knew there was an album which I loved called Bach, Switch It On Bach.
Yeah.
So I found out that the German guy, a classical composer, had the big Moog. So I asked him, could you play something for me? And I went to his studio and he played for like 20 minutes.
I'm feeling that.
And I was there and I said, is this a song or is this a... So at that moment I knew that this is a new instrument. And I did my first song with a synthesizer, was Son of My Father, and I used it since then.
Next question from Vito in Aeroplane. What was your real relation with synthesizers, and do you consider yourself more of a composer in the classical meaning of it, or a synth electronic pioneer?
Ooh, difficult.
Ooh.
This coming from Vito. Huh?
I know.
I don't know.
I really wanted one of those. Martin Ware, Heaven 17. How do you think architecture relates to your musical work?
Well, to be honest, I'm a mini architect in life. I studied architecture, so no. I think I go by the feel. If a song is good, I don't care if there is a certain architecture or not.
Okay, so structures.
Yeah, the structures now are different. When I started, it was based on intro, verse, chorus, verse. Now it's like you have 8 bars, and then you chop them up and you do whatever you want. So there's definitely no structure because you just paste and cut whatever you want.
Cut and paste.
Cut and paste, yeah. Yeah, we should cut first.
Okay. I have a few more, but a couple more. Have we got time for a few more? Thank you. Adamski, an electronic. Woo! Okay. Is it true that I Feel Love was played with your fingers rather than a sequencer?
Well, to be honest, I know a guy who tried to play the same thing with fingers and 6 strings. And you do this.
I want to see that.
Well, what I did was a little easier. I had the remote and I had 8 knobs. Each knob was a sound. So I did dong, 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 dong.
I love that. I don't want these to end. I have a couple more. Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, OMD, Paul Humphreys, Andy McCluskey. What synth did you use for those amazing sequencer patterns, and how on earth did you keep the live drummer in time with them?
Well, the live drummer was always a little problem, but you know...
They're always a problem, drummers.
Yeah. No, but Keith Forsey, which is a great drummer, he got used to it. And you know, the first recordings were like he couldn't keep track. The tracks were never too loud or not too loud, but he got used to it. And now you cannot imagine a group playing without a trigger or without a basic click.
Okay. One more. Mr. Howard Jones. Did you feel, and this is quite a way, do you feel you were having to defend the use of synthesizers and electronics in your work? And what was your response?
Well, to make a short answer long, I used the synthesizer quite a lot in the late 60s, early 70s, until one day I read a review about a song of mine, and the guy said, and Moroder, if he doesn't know what to do, he just puts a synthesizer in. And that was a killer. I said, never again a synthesizer. And the next song was I Feel Love.
And on that note, I do have some questions from Paul Epworth, Arthur Baker, Daniel Miller, and many more, but we'll get them back because they need to know these answers.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Giorgio. Thank you, Josh. Amazing. Just one quick thing. Niall, do you want to come to the stage quickly? I think we were just going to have a little love-in on the stage with Niall and Giorgio.